All right, wrestling friends, welcome to the first episode of Suplexes and Microphones. I'm Nate Pritchard, this is Joe Brown. We have with us Ethan Case.
That's me.
More about him in a moment. And welcome to our very first episode.
Absolutely. And we're very excited to have Ethan Case here. He's one of the biggest and best independent wrestlers in the world. I'm honored to have you here, Ethan. And the first thing I'd like to get into is discussing what's been going on with you. You've been injured.
Yes.
So tell us how the injury happened and what's the recovery time looking like and what shows we can expect to see you at soon.
Yeah, it sucked. It was so bad. I was at AWE in Atlanta, and something so simple that I've done 1,000 times, just a little dive through the middle rope. And a lot of guys you'll see, like, they'll hit them and they just like fall on top of the guy. I like to land on my feet just because you always have that risk of like hitting a guardrail or hitting a stage, especially like at AW or something. So I always hit them and land on my feet, and when I did, my ankle just snaps. But funny story about that. I always tie my boots right before I go out. Like, it's the last thing I do, just make sure they're tight, so I have an ankle problem before. And I went to go tie it, and on the left foot, my boot lace snapped. So I was like, what am I gonna do? So it was only through like I have 9 hooks. It was only through like 7 of them, so it was kind of loose anyway. And Anthony Henry and Aaron Epic were back there, and I was like, watch, of all nights, if I were to break my ankle, tonight would be the night.
Foreshadowing.
Dude, and as soon as it happened, that's all I could think about was, I did this to myself.
You didn't say anything.
Yeah, I shouldn't say anything at all.
Absolutely.
But it was one of those things too. I was in a triple threat with Owen Knight and Adrian Armour. And as soon as it happened, I went to stand up, and on the video you see I just army crawled into a hallway.
I remember you saying this was like maybe the only match ever that you couldn't finish based on an injury.
12 years. Only match I haven't finished. And I've had injuries before, like I just keep going, it's really weird too, like in wrestling, like your adrenaline, I guess. Like if you get knocked out, you try to keep going. Like I got knocked out at PWX about 1.5 years ago.
Really?
And like 2 minutes into the match, I wrestled a 20-minute match. You know, and it's crazy how your body just wants to keep going, but you're like, it's like the lights are on but nobody's home kind of thing.
Yeah, it's training kicking in. Though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I'm real big on. The way I was trained is a lot different than a lot of guys. I feel like a lot of training is rushed. And the guy who trained me, I'm his only student ever. So with that, it was repetition. I always think of semi-pro. Whenever Woody Harrelson makes them start running drills until they get sick. He's like, but when we're tired, this is what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
And that's the way I've always trained. So, but with it now, I finally got my cast off, which I liked. I had that bright pink cast, like it was the color of the shirts,
Of course.
And I always got 1 or 2 reactions. Either everybody was like, I love the cast, or like the people in Walmart, they'd be like, what's wrong with that guy?
Right.
Why does he have a pink cast? But I'm out of the cast, I'm out of the boot, I'm doing my rehab. I'm actually back in the ring training now. So,
that's great.
like I was working out just a minute ago with the guys.
That's good to see you in the
Yeah, it's been awesome, and especially since I moved here to Columbia, I've been having more ring time and stuff, because there's a training facility here. But I'm cleared to start back Mania weekend. So the 28th, I have a show in Orlando. No, I'm sorry, it's the 29th, that Wednesday, for Punk Pro Wrestling, which is a cool little thing. Their title is actually the fully gimmick title, so Luna and them are really embraced in that.
Nice.
I have a show with them on Wednesday and Friday. Saturday I'm at Ignite Pro in the same building, and then I have Combat Zone Wrestling that Saturday night. So
good.
Pretty
busy weekend.
Pretty rough way to come back.
Running right into it.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 shows.
That's
within
good
3 or
though.
4 days.
That's good.
So.
Jump back in on 2 feet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the time off it was hard.
I bet.
Because this is all I've ever done.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. A lot of times Nate and I will ask wrestlers, and some of them, respectfully, don't want to answer this. And I asked you recently if you had a regular 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And you said
no.
Right. So when the injury happened, was there something in your mind like, ooh, really wish I had something to fall back on until I get this healed up? Or was it, all I'm going to do is worry about getting back in the ring?
Yes and no. The bad thing was, like, even when I got hurt, the first thing I thought was like, well, I need to find a job. Like, I need to do something. I've always worked in restaurants and stuff, like since I was 16.
Okay.
Or it's always been in hospitality, like running a gym or like in a restaurant. I managed a bar for a few years, and I was like, well, I need to do something, but like, who's gonna hire me with a knee-high pink cast and I'm on crutches? Like,
right.
So realistically, what ended up happening was thankfully, over the last year and a half, Morgan, my girlfriend, has really been on me about branding and merchandise. And I never really had shirts within the last 2 years. And I've been wrestling 12, so 10 years I missed out on that whole spectrum. And Luna and them make amazing products, and that's really what's been happening. Like I've just been living off merchandise money.
That's good. That's a good lifeline for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Fully Gimmicked a little bit in a minute, but one of the things I want to talk about is your gimmick.
Yeah.
We're talking about this hot pink stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but one time you and Mikey Galino were doing Facebook Live, and I said, ask Ethan, what's the deal with the 80s music? He's too young of a guy.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
We were going to, where were we going? That was a long trip. Tennessee, maybe? I don't know.
I think y'all went live a couple times, and that was one of the questions I asked.
That's because Mike always has really horrible service. So, we do 8 takes.
Right. Well, where did the gimmick come from? Tell us about the streamers, the 80s music, the hot pink.
Yeah.
Bright colors.
Right.
That whole 80s thing, growing up, my mom, I listened to Jackal growing up, and I always remember Lumberjack was one of my favorite songs from Jackal. But we always listened to Metallica, AC/DC. It was always an 80s vibe because my mom grew up in the 80s. She was a professional quad skater. So yeah, that's what she did as a teenager. That's how she made money.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then it just kind of always flowed through. I'd always find myself listening to the classic rock stations and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I haven't always been that way. Being a younger guy too, at the time I was Linkin Park was always had cool music out, and Rage Against the Machine, and I would always use that for interest music, and I didn't understand that having something to present yourself as meant so much, because I was just me.
Okay.
And then I wondered why I didn't go anywhere, I didn't do anything. And then the 80s thing came around, but it was actually Elijah that came up with it.
Elijah Evans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we were doing the 80s thing already. We found members-only jackets.
Nice.
And that was our first entrance gear as a tag team. And then it kind of progressed, and one day I went to a garage sale, and this woman had these old, the windbreakers, the neon windbreakers.
Mm-hmm.
She had 2 of them, and one was too big for me, but one was my size. And I was like, well, you can wear that one. And I'll wear this. I was like, how much for these? She goes, I don't know, 50 cents for both of them. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
This is amazing. It's meant to be.
Right.
And then literally thrifting is my hobby.
Okay.
So I hit up all these thrift shops, Billy Brash is my thrift buddy, and we go out, and there for a year, I found a windbreaker every thrift store I went to. So I have my closet is lined with these neon windbreakers and stuff. And, yeah.
Looks like a rainbow in the closet.
It does, it does. But there was one day we had just got on at PWX, and the way we got on at PWX was through a seminar. And guys don't take getting an opportunity like that seriously, I feel anymore. It's just kind of well, if they're not going to call me, I'm not going to go. And we drove up from Atlanta, and Roderick Strong and Eddie Edwards were doing a seminar. And they were the 2 guys that did the best, that were going to put a match together on the show.
Okay.
Well, they picked Elijah and I. Well, we started getting dressed, and we had the same gear, just different colors. And they were like, are y'all a tag team? We're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we love tag wrestling. So they went and found another tag team for us to wrestle. And from that match, both of us got picked. They wanted both of us there full time. And that was back when Tyshawn ran it. It was small venues. We were drawing maybe 70, 80 people in Trademark Music Hall. And they were just that tag team wanted too much. But they thought because they worked that one show, they were oh, well, they owe us that. Well, we're going to ask for this and this and this and this. And we're just back here hey, thank you.
Right.
And they lasted about 2 shows. I've been here for 5 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah, almost 5 years. Golly. But yeah, he showed, after our first match there, he showed up to my house to pick me, and we were going to PWX. He was like, listen to this song. I hadn't heard Money for Nothing before, because I remember the I Want My MTV thing at the beginning. And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, I don't like this. It's just too slow, man. It doesn't really feel like it. And then the doo-doo-doo, and I was like, oh.
Right.
And when that riff hits, man, yeah, I was just that's it. That's us all day.
That's what, okay.
And we started it that night.
All right, I like it. I like the origin. Speaking of gimmicks.
Yeah.
Fully Gimmicked.
Right.
Explain to us how you got hooked up with Fully Gimmicked, and kind of how that relationship is. What do they do for you? What do you do for them?
Yeah. I met them in Tampa, or it was Ybor City. I went down for FIP. They did a 6-man tag team tournament a couple of years ago. And the team was me, John Schuyler, and Corey Hollis. So if you know anything about me, I don't like John Schuyler and I don't like Corey Hollis.
Okay.
But it was kind of like they were sending, at the time, their heavyweight champion, their tag team champion because Adam Page couldn't make it, and then I had just won the X16. So it was kind of like we were that, and to preface that, the tournament was 32 or 16 teams from all over the country representing other companies.
Okay.
So it was like they had a tier 1 team and a CZW team and all this stuff. And I went down there and I did the streamer party thing and all that, and we just started talking from there, and I lost contact with him for like a few months, and then I hit him up and I was like, so I really like what you guys are doing, and I think I should be a part of it.
Okay.
And now I kind of feel like I represent the brand. Like I think I'm one of the more involved ambassadors for the brand. You know, they're a small company too. I mean, that's what we are as wrestlers. We're just a small business,
right?
And they're trying to get their thing kicked off and everything else too. And it's just one of those like they help me push my stuff and I push theirs all day. And it's not like I don't feel like they're taking from me more than I take from them or anything like that. Like we have a strong family bond. And the really cool thing too is we have ambassadors all over the country. Mm-hmm. So it's really weird how all of us have become friends. Like I'm really close with Gary J now out of St. Louis. He's been with Fully Gimmick since they started. And it's just really cool, like the family bond, like the Carnies. Like I love the Carnies.
Okay. We just saw the Carnies actually the first time.
We're at PWX. Yeah. Oh man, they are so good.
Yeah, they're good.
They used to be a boy and his dog. Nick Iggy acted like he was like 12, and he came out with like a red and yellow backpack, and he had these Hulk Hogan yellow vinyl boots.
Really?
Yeah, and Kerry was just a dog. It was like he was his dog. Like they would play fetch before the match and stuff. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, and now they're like these evil carnies.
Right.
Love it.
Wow.
But just you know, you were talking about like the gimmicks and stuff. Like it's that progression, just always evolving. Because if you don't evolve, you get left behind.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so something that Nate and I have talked about quite a few times, and I watched it the other day. You, Sammy Callahan, the switcheroo at PWX X16 last October, October 2016. And I talked about this with you briefly, and the fans were saying match of the year before you guys threw a punch. Yeah. And I just want to know, number one, who came up with this idea?
I did.
Was it your idea? All right, I kind of thought it was. And tell me how you presented that for Sammy to go along with it.
All right, so for years, everybody knew that I like copied Sammy. Like there for a while, like I based everything I did kind of off of Sammy.
Okay.
And even like Rich Swann, when we go down to Florida, he'd be like, "You're just Bizarro Sammy. He's evil and you're happy. Like it's just that's the only difference between you two."
Right.
And the first time I ever met Sammy was the WrestleMania in New Jersey. They did it. They said it was New York, but it was in New Jersey. It was really weird. But I went up there with Apollo Crews and AR Fox and all those guys from the WWA 4 school. And Uha had been telling him about me. He's like, "Yo, I got this guy," and everybody says, "You know, he looks like you, da da da." And I was on an elevator and I went down like 2 floors. I'll never forget it. The door opened and it was Sammy, and I was like, "No, this isn't gonna be good." Because we look alike.
Yeah.
We both wear bandanas and everything, fanny packs. He gets in the elevator and he's kind of there for a second. He's dipping, he spits in his bottle. He goes, "So you must be the one they've been talking about that looks like me." You know, like, and he was deep voicing me too, and I loved it. And I was just like, "Yeah, man." That was all that was said. He's like, "See you later." He gets on the elevator, and you know, of course, he was at a very higher level at the time compared to me, and since then we've become friends at shows. So it's really cool to like somebody you look up to be able to just like text them and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, you know. So literally, I just walked up and I was like, "Yo, Sammy, listen. The match before us was Anthony Henry and Zack Sabre Jr." And I was like,
"Over the top."
Yeah, I was like, "Nah, man. like grappling like that's not my strong point. And I feel like it doesn't have to be. I feel like everybody has their own thing, and that's okay. That's what makes everybody different." And I was just like, "Let's give them a moment. Like, let's create something here."
Right.
And I was like, let me wear your gear. And I was like, I want to come out like you and you come out like me. He's like, do I get to throw a streamer? I was like, of course you get to throw a streamer. He's like, I'm in. You know, he was
Nice.
Yeah, he always does the thumbs up thing even when we're talking like in real conversation. It's so funny.
Good.
But we were very lucky with that to be able to create something that I really feel like people talked about in the tournament because they see so much wrestling to give them something different.
Absolutely.
And
It's got to have a little humor in there to kind of change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
A little variety in the show.
And that's what I preach to people too. Like I'm all about moments. Going out there and I mean, am I always gonna have the best match of the night? Probably not. But I'm gonna make people talk about it. That's my whole goal. Like, because if people start talking about me, if they talk about me enough to go on Twitter and be like, I liked watching at Ethan Case Club.
Sure.
Man, what if they have 3,000 followers?
Right.
Those 3,000 people might click on that and like me, you know, and then it
Absolutely.
just boosts me. So
Yeah.
it's actually a really cool way.
Domino effect,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Well, apparently it worked. Like I said, Nate and I still talk about that match.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long, about 6 months ago now, but it was incredible. And it was a nice change. There were so many good matches. And of course, you all still had a good, very good match too. But to have that spiced in there with that was really nice.
Brad Stutz is one of the hardest people to impress, especially when it comes to like comedy wrestling and stuff like that. And he said whenever Sammy came out in my gear, he was like, what are they doing? He's like, this is going to be horrible. And then when we locked up and went all the way up the ramp and then came back out and we switched, which was a funny moment because like we're back there we're like changing. He's just like, this is the greatest. Brad afterwards he was like, I'm gonna tell you. He's like, at first I didn't like it, and then when y'all came back out and you stopped, I loved it. And it was just like getting that kind of admiration from your peers is a really cool thing. Like a really cool thing. And Brad's one of those guys I really trust. And I've gotten really close with doing commentary with him too. So doing stuff like that, and then like everybody loving that, and so many people have talked about it. Like I thought about getting a T-shirt made of it, and because I got a really cool picture of us doing the thumbs up, thumbs down thing, and I didn't follow through on that. I need to call Luna. That's something I need.
I like it.
Yeah, right.
I like it. Yeah. Nate, you want to start out our next?
Yeah, this is a segment we're going to have with all the wrestlers, kind of like Joe started out with some things specific to you.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to do what we call a 10 count.
Okay.
10 kind of short questions. Some are wrestling related, some might not be wrestling related.
Okay.
This is a personal.
So you're going to do it every episode?
Yes, every episode.
So it's like inside the actor studio.
And what we're going to do is you're going to provide one of the next questions for the next person we interview.
Oh man.
So, but we'll do that at the end.
No
So
pressure.
Nate's going to start off with our 10 count.
All right, so number one. So who are some of your influences in wrestling business as far as wrestling styles, move set, gimmick even, that kind of thing? So what are some of your influences?
Right off the bat, like growing up I was always Sting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of where the neon thing might have come from, because, you know, like back, I mean, it was 91, 92 at the time, you know, and I posted a picture not too long ago of me with the Ultra J, and it was, my mom had a picture on the fridge of me from Halloween at Sting. And I put them side by side. I was like, man, how cool is that? Like, I'm actually doing something I thought I wanted to do when I was like 3 or 4.
Absolutely.
You know? But Sammy's one of those guys, like, even though we're similar, like we can mirror each other, Sammy grinds like nobody I know. Like him, and it's so cool too, like now, like David Starr. David Starr just like, his grind is so hard, man. They're always on the road, they're always pushing their stuff. And that's something I was like inspired to be. You know, and there's, as far as like influence, like I pick and take from everywhere. So I don't have like a specific person. I'm just like, hey, take all your stuff. You know, I used to be that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to be bad about that. So bad. Like Chris Hero was one of them.
Yeah.
I was such like, if I was 6'3", you would have thought I was Chris Hero. Like I just did all this stuff, and you know, I've kind of gotten away from that, thankfully. But yeah, like as far as like in the business, like I focus on the guys who are doing what I want to do. So I try to follow that same pathway that they do.
Yeah, excellent. So, so we talked about the gimmick, the streamer parties and that kind of thing, and the bright colors and 80s music. Do you have any other previous gimmicks that you might have had at one point when you were kind of getting started and moving along? Any interesting gimmicks to share with us?
They were all horrible. They were so bad. When I first started wrestling, I was 15. And I'll never forget, the guy who ran the promotion, his name was David Reimer. And I was so young, and I'd had a little bit of training before I got there, and so I was kind of like ready to go, I guess. And then they kind of took me under the wing, and then I met my actual trainer who taught me like everything I needed to know. But David looked at me one day and he's like, look around this locker room. And it's all like grown men. It's like, these guys like Doc Feelgood and Abel Adams, and he's just like, could you beat them? And I was like, yeah. I was cocky about it too. I was just like, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, all right, but do you think any people on the other side of that curtain are going to think that you can beat them? And I was like, nope. There's no way. Like, these are big, like, grown men, you know? And he's like, all right, then you're going to wear a mask because you look like you're 12. And I was like, well, I kind of am almost 12. So, like, I wore a mask for a while, and I had, like, a little cheap replica mask. And then one thing that's always made me so mad in wrestling is comedy characters in masks. Dr. X, you know, he's gonna put his finger up your butt or something. You know, like, it's always so weird. But like,
and plus, taking to the facial expressions with the mask, so it kind of takes away.
There's a pro and con there.
Yeah.
Pro and con, so I'll touch on that too. But one big thing was all these guys. It was always just like a joke. So anytime I come out, people were just like, he's gonna lose in 3 minutes. You know, and I started taking my mask character really, really serious. I got custom gear made from Mexico that cost me like $600. And I had a mask made. My mask is actually like full face, like you were talking about. And my trainer actually wanted me to have that so that I couldn't use my face to sell. I had to use my body. Like, I had to create emotion from people without them being able to see my face or my eyes. You know, like they couldn't see my mouth, my eyes, anything. Because I had a screen across the eyes, which was horrible. Because the way they made the mask, I had no peripherals, and it was just like I could only look here. So if like I wanted to look at you, I literally have to do this. But I wrestled in that for like 5 years. But it was one of the best things I ever did because when I was able to take the mask off, my face added an extra element to my selling with my body that I already do.
Yeah.
So I say so a lot. But I do that a lot.
Get your stuff in.
Yeah, got to, man. Got to. See, there we go. But with that, after that, I teamed with my trainer for a long time, and it's actually where I got my name from. His name's Lyle Case, and man, like without him, like I wouldn't be doing this at all. And like I said before, it's really cool because I'm the only guy he's ever trained.
Yeah.
And then the coolest thing of that is I only have one student so far, and it was Tracer X.
Oh yeah.
So, and, you know, he's doing big things and all that. So it's like a cool little lineage thing we got going on. But after that, like I was just me. I had no idea where I would be, or like I would just show up and be like, I want to meet the K's. So, you know, I'd come out and Jericho it and just be like, come on, baby. That's it. Like I didn't know that you needed something. And then when I met Elijah, man, it all flipped. It all started coming together and it just started making sense. Everything just started rocking and rolling. I hate that it took 8 years for it to be that way. Like I feel like I kind of wasted 8 years doing just nothing. Like, and then
It's a building process. I mean, it made you focus more on your fundamental your wrestling and skills. So.
And there's some guys that just get it, man, and they get attention and they blow up. Like Leo Rush. Like, I love Leo Rush. And he's only been wrestling like 2 or 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
He's
really so good.
Yes.
And it's like watching a Bruce Lee movie, man. Like, he's just all over the place. That's really cool. But you know, something like that, if you're in the right place, right time. And Southern wrestling used to be horrible. Like, bad. And it was boring, it was slow, nobody wanted to do anything. And then now we're a hotbed.
Right.
Because like when I started training, we always watched PWG. PWG had just started. And actually it might have been before PWG started. They had a company called Rev Pro in Cali. And we would study that stuff. Man, I'd study Lucha Libre, we'd study New Japan and All Japan and all this other stuff. And he was like, watch, if you work this way now, when it blows up, you'll be a star. He always told me that. And I was just like, it's never going to catch on, because I would go to these shows and, God, every vet in the locker room would be like, you're killing the business. You're doing too much. Slow it down. You know, and it's just like, I don't want to slow it down. That's not how I want to do it. And one thing that I always preach too, like when I'm teaching someone is, this is art. If every artist that painted on a canvas did exactly the same thing, who would be the best?
I agree.
You know, there's no exact right way to do this, in my opinion. It's all, you know, your interpretation of what art you want to present. Some people are better at presenting it than others.
Right.
And it's noticeable. Like the guys that are good, and you know it. Fans know it. You know,
Right.
It's like it's a really cool thing.
And you know, it's funny. Nate and I, the first time we saw you was in Flatline,
Oh yeah.
and over a year ago. I don't know exactly how long. And when you came out, I'm doing the same thing you're talking about. I'm like, this dude's wearing pink. I don't. What is this?
Yeah.
And then you get in there, and Nate knows when we're watching a match when I do this. You just pull something off, and I did that a few times.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember, but I messaged you on Facebook, and I said, "Man, I enjoyed watching you. You're really good."
I do remember that because it popped back up whenever we started talking again when you came to like PWX, I think it was.
Yeah.
Flatline was so much fun.
It was a good promotion.
It's where like Billy Brash and I went down like one of the first times I went there. Now see, I worked in it before it was the Flatline that you guys know.
Okay.
It was like Flatline Championship Wrestling. It was, God, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, maybe even 8. And it was ran completely differently. Still ran in the same gym, but completely different, like the way it was put together, who ran it, and everything like that. But guys like, you know, Chris Wiggins, he was a big part of the show then. And then like Chris Main,
Yep.
who I really like, and he just started coming back here recently.
Yep.
He was there when I came in the first time. But the second time around, I was riding with Billy Brash, who is my best friend in the world. I love him. But the first time we ever went, he was like, let's go down a day early and we'll hang out at my buddy Mikey's place. And I was like, all right, cool, you know, whatever. And we get there, and this big Guido-looking dude comes walking out, and he's like, hey. And I was like, I love him. I don't even met him yet. I love him. I just hugged him.
Right.
I was like, we're gonna be friends, man.
Yeah.
And like the next day we went up and went to the jockey lot or something and just spent the day together. And then we went to the show, and we were sitting at cookout after the show, and I'll never forget it. Mikey just sits his tray down and goes, I didn't think I would make another best friend this week. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
cool.
man. You know? So, and we've been, you know, we all ride together now
Sure.
to this day and everything. And Billy's getting back in, which makes me ecstatic because he's so good. But yeah, Flatline was a cool thing. If it was about a year ago,
It was one of the last shows Flatline did.
if it was, that means I wrestled Drake that night.
Yes.
Was that who it was?
It was.
Nate?
Yep, that was their last show. That was March of the
Yes,
Champion.
it was.
And we were in such a bad position on the card. Like we were coming right back from intermission. They had just watched a 20-minute street fight. And I was just like, oh
Yeah.
man, it's gonna be rough. And Drake hits hard anyway.
Yeah.
Drake was my first match ever.
Really?
Really?
Drake was my first match ever. So, you know, turnabout fair play. Like watching Drake do what he's doing is amazing.
Yes.
Because and Drake's been in longer than I have. So Drake was my first match ever, and like I was on commentary when he won the PWX TV title, ITV title, and it's one of those things that people talk about my commentary because it's real. So like if I feel something, like I just talk about it. Like I talk on commentary, like I talk to you guys.
Right.
And when Drake won, man, like my voice cracked, and I was just like ecstatic, like I couldn't even talk, and I was just. It was but it's cool moments like that, you know, that really make all this worth it.
Yeah.
You know, even if nothing comes of it, if I never make it to the Fed or anything like that, like the moments that I've created and the friendships that I have and stuff will never be matched by anything else I do with my life. So it's really cool.
So number 3
Okay.
of 10.
I'm a talker, by the way.
That's
man.
perfect. That's great.
I told you to go as long as you want.
I know I heard when you said 20 minutes, I was like, right. You got 10 questions at least? Nah, man, that ain't happening.
So, dead or alive, in their prime, who would your dream match be against?
Realistically, my dream match was Sammy.
Okay.
Like, it always has been.
You called it?
Yep, it has been, man, for years and years. Like I've always, and that's what made it even better was we had this moment in there. And it's just like, oh, that's awesome. Like, and Sammy, every time I see him, like, if we're at a different show, so he'll grab me like, this is the guy I was talking about. We switched gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I got a gif of it. It's on my Twitter.
Follow me.
Yeah, and that's one cool thing too about wrestling right now is gifting. I love it. There's one guy, his name's Hoke, New York, and he gives all the shows that are on like iPay-per-views or TV or anything like that. And like we all started naming moves after him because he does so much for us. Like those little 8-second clips, they get seen by so many people. He has more followers than like any wrestlers I know combined. It's insane. But you know, to be able to just throw stuff out there, people see small videos. Like I actually got hit up by a place in the UK because I started posting. I would tag companies over there with just a little gif of me doing a stream party. That was it. Yeah. Nothing to my wrestling. Nothing. Just me throwing a streamer, spinning in it, and then I just started getting contact from it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like all from that. So.
Nice.
That's a good transition to my next question, actually. What's the furthest you've traveled to work a show? No possible UK coming up, but so as of now.
I hope so. I wrestled in New York. That's probably about the first, because we were in Atlanta at the time. So it was a good little like 13-hour drive to where were we? We were in Long Island, NYWC. Beyond did a taping there, and we went up for that. And that was like when Elijah and I first started tagging. But I mean, going all over the place, like when we hit Ohio and loop around or something like that, like you make 3 days out of it easy, and people don't realize it. But I mean, like even when we go to like Orlando or Tampa, it takes just as long from where I'm at to get to Orlando as it does Philly. So it's kind of a weird little way that it works. But I mean, I've been out Midwest a little bit, but I think probably the Long Island trip was about the furthest.
Now, speaking of travel, question number 5, not current vehicle, but what was the very first vehicle you ever had?
Oh,
non-wrestling question.
Loved it. 87 Mighty Max pickup. Loved it. I did everything.
That's Mitsubishi, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I got it, I'll never forget my dad. I was like 17 or 18 maybe. And my dad was like, well, Lyle had a Dodge Ram 50, which is the exact same truck. I was like, man, I like that truck. My dad pulled over. He was like, it's a stick. I said, well, that's out. Never mind. Cool. And the guy was wanting like, I was like $1,200 for it. And it barely had 100. I don't think it had 100,000 miles. I think it had like 88,000 miles on it. And my dad goes, I'll tell you what, if you can learn how to drive a stick in the next 20 minutes, I'll buy it. I was like, oh. Check once accepted. Here we go. So he showed me once, I picked it up. He went and paid cash for it. And that was like, I don't know why, because my dad's never been one to like throw money around or anything like that. And it was just like a spur of the moment thing. And I was like, wow, like he really wants me to have a car, I guess. And I learned how to drive that truck, and when it finally died, it had 262,000 miles on it. And I think I only had it like 5 or 6 years. Like I put some miles on that truck. I flipped it. I had a deer run out in front of me, and I swerved off the road, and like it was like a ditch, but there was like a log in it for some reason. Like somebody cut down a tree and they lifted a ditch, and I hit that, and it looked like, you know, the scene in Dark Knight whenever the Joker, like Batman flips the 18-wheeler. That's what it felt like. Like the truck was set up like this, and it fell. And I still have this CD that was playing. It was playing "Shipping Out to Boston" by Dropkick Murphys. Yeah. And if you play that CD, it starts skipping halfway through the song, because that's when I hit that tree. And like, yeah, it's like sometimes I hear that song, and like if I'm driving, I'll be like, next. Like it just scares me.
Yeah, really.
But like, one day the teeth on the old cap, because everything was from the manufacturer in it, and the teeth on the old cap wore off, and the old cap shot off while I was going down I-85 in Greenville. Oil goes everywhere, catches the alternator on fire. Oh, wow. So my truck's on fire, and I don't realize it because I'm listening to music or whatever. And I look in my rear view, or somebody's flashing the lights. I look in my rear view, and all I see is smoke and the lights in the smoke. And then I look down, and my like speedometer's orange. I was like, what? That's not normally like that. So I pull over, and I panicked, and I know not to open the hood. And that's the first thing I did. I opened the hood, and it just, air got to it, and it just, and a DOT guy just happened to be passing that was off work. And he was like, he put it out, and he sprayed everything down with degreaser. And I had my mom bring me 5 quarts of oil and an oil cap, and I drove it to work. Like that truck would not die.
Wow,
that's amazing.
And it was the best thing ever.
They don't make them like that anymore.
No, they don't. No.
But you can get a rear view camera now, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather not pick up. But,
So number 6 question.
oh my God, I'm taking so long.
That's all right.
The show's going to start while we're in here.
Yeah, we'll knock it out.
All right, I'll keep it short. I'll keep it short.
If you had a magic wand, genie in a bottle, whatever, and you could change one thing about the pro wrestling business, what would you change?
The complaining. I've always definitely been around it, especially in the South, where it's old school versus new school, and I don't think that's the way it is. I think it's just a school. And I always tell guys, I get in arguments with these like older vet guys. But the thing with that is the guys that want to complain about the wrestling business are the ones that never did anything, ever. They were local indie guys who maybe got a shot with Crockett when they came to town, but they never did anything.
Right.
George South, Ricky Morton, these guys understand it, and they love what wrestling is now because it's still wrestling, it's still a performance art.
And they're still performing.
Exactly. And like, okay, so like George, one of George's top guys is Cedric. Do you think Cedric wrestles like Crockett did in '88?
Right, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
But George loves it because he understands that's what he has to do now. I mean, dude, we have so much competition. What, 4,000 channels on TV?
Sure.
Internet-based everything, MMA. There's a lot of competition to make people believe what we do. And,
Right.
hey, Ricky Morton, Chase Owens is his top student. And, I've been friends with Chase for a decade, man. We met each other when we first started. And to see him do the stuff he's doing, you'll never see Ricky complain. Ricky does nothing but brag about Chase because he's doing what he needs to do to make a living. And that's what we have to do.
Absolutely.
So if I could get rid of those guys, and one thing I always tell them too, like I got an argument like a couple months back with a guy, and he's like, "You don't understand the business." And I was like, "All right, let me ask you a question. Do you think in 9th grade right now, like in high school, they are teaching out of the same exact math book that I had? No.
Right.
Because everything changes, everything evolves. They find a better way to do stuff.
Right.
They find a way to adapt to kids. Like kids' attention spans now are completely different. So to be able to attract them in and adapt to that, that's what textbooks are now.
Sure.
They're nowhere near what they were when I was in school. More or less, these guys who I've been in the business for 36 years.
Right.
I remember Neil Armstrong landing on the moon and stuff like that. Man, it just drives me insane. So if I can get rid of that, be done.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Number 7. We talked a little bit about previous gimmicks and things.
Mm-hmm.
How about face versus heel? What do you prefer to work as?
Either. I can do both.
Really?
We were heels when we came into PWX. So I always enjoyed it, but the downside was we were still fun. Because, like, I'm just me. I don't have that, like, if I'm a heel, like, I don't have the, shot. I don't do that. I'm just me, but I'll make you hate me just because I'm flamboyant anyway and stuff, And it's always funny when people find it. I get all these older women that ask me all the time if I, have a little sugar in the tank. All the time. I'm like, no, I got 2 kids over there at my table. You should buy a t-shirt though. And, I do my best to make people hate who I am because I am so different than what I think is normal or what people perceive as, well, I don't think there is such thing as normal, but
Sure.
perceived as normal or walk the line. I stay as far away from that as possible just because that's not who I am personally. But yeah, like I love talking, so if I can do it as both. I don't really, but like I have so much support, especially like at PWX. Like I feel like I'm the homegrown guy from PWX right now. Like I'm the one that everybody believes in because they've seen me. Like we have some fans that shows that were there the first show we were on.
Right.
And they've seen me evolve into what I am now, so it's really cool.
Okay. Cool. Besides coming back from this injury,
Yeah.
that's obvious. What is the one thing you want to improve in your own wrestling game this year?
I've been working more on becoming defensive, like a defensive-based wrestler, where it's not necessarily what I hit, it's how I prevent being beaten. So I've been, honestly, dude, the injury was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And like I battled with it mentally and everything. It was also the best thing that's ever happened to me because it's opened my eyes to wrestling. So, like I know everybody says like, "Oh, I'm making a comeback." No, like I'm making a comeback. Like Mania weekend is all. So, I'm just ready to get back in it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of this year, number 9 on our list of the 10 count is name 2 wrestlers that you want to face off against this year.
2 wrestlers.
Not Sammy this time. We've
Yeah,
already
not
used
Sammy.
him as one answer.
I've already used Sammy. I've already
Yeah.
beaten Sammy. Let's see. Nostalgia purpose, I want to wrestle Chase again. Chase Owens.
Okay.
Just because we always had fun. It's been a while. See, I'm not like a big guy. Like I don't think. Because see, like my first answer is always, you know, people make those lists that like people I want to face in 2017 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I did one last year and I named all NXT guys. So I want to do an NXT.
Sure.
Like, why wouldn't I?
Sure.
So if I get another match with Cedric, like
Okay.
Cedric brings out the best in me, man. Because like
Okay.
I used to sleep on his couch.
Really?
Like, because PWX would do 3-day weekends.
Mm.
And we would just crash in Charlotte, drive up, crash in Charlotte, sleep on his floor, whatever, and, you know. So like, us being that close has always been really cool. Hey, we're doing a podcast. Kick it.
Come on in, Jacoby.
Kick it. No.
Say hello.
No, Jacoby did not come in. No, Jacoby. No.
You should.
Did I be done?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
What up, man?
No, I'm in the shot.
Now we're in the shot. What's good, man?
What's up, man?
Doing all right?
Yes, sir. To his house?
Our house. I'm looking for folding chairs. I'm trying to get gimmick.
Where were we? People to face off against. How about Jacoby Boykins?
Jacoby's too strong. I'm not about that life, man. I've watched him ragtag dudes. I'm just
He's a
like,
brick house.
dude. Like I just watch him throw around guys that are bigger than me, and I'm like, nah, man.
Right.
Nope. I will tag you and run.
Hey, man.
Come on, through, lights.
Long time no see.
You right?
Hey, man. Okay, wait a minute. This is a different locker room. Dang, this place is confusing me.
Flex, we're just shooting a podcast, man. It's okay.
Oh, my bad, I'm
You just
already
keep walking through. You just keep doing
God.
your thing.
Flex
Sorry,
size.
man.
Flex size.
We'll exercise later.
I haven't seen you for like 4 years, man. It's crazy.
All right, so I think we covered the 2.
Yeah. Cedric.
Let's talk about long-term goals.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
Provide a living, man. That's my big. You know, we talk about it. I have 2 kids.
Sure.
I'm really big. Even like when I do work other jobs, I refuse to work in a place that I hate.
Mm.
Like warehouse stuff, not for me. Like
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I can't stand doing the same thing every day. And my biggest thing is, everybody thinks that means WWE.
Sure.
That's not what that means anymore. There's so many companies where you can make a living off wrestling.
Mhm.
And that's my biggest thing, like with my branding. I try to up my branding all the time. I've got new shirts coming out for Mania Week. And then just being able to take advantage of the time I do have at home with my family.
Right.
But still be able to do what I love and chase my dream. You know, that's I talked about it earlier and it kind of kicked in my mind. I mean, I'm 28 now. I'm doing something I wanted to do when I was 3 years old. Like, that's pretty insane.
That's awesome.
You know?
Absolutely.
So, it's cool to me.
Good deal. Good deal. That's the end of our 10 count.
10 count. It only took 40 minutes.
We appreciate the time. We are going to wrap up here.
Okay.
Plug. What do you got?
Yeah.
Talk about whatever you're doing.
My social media, it's all Ethan Case Clothes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, fullygimmick.com/Ethan-Case. That's my page. But make sure to check out everything that they do. It's all stellar
stuff.
work. Yeah, I love it, man. It's so cool. But I mean, that's pretty much it. You know, we talked about the upcoming shows, and then Premier Wrestling Experience. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out because we put on a killer product, top to bottom. So.
Definitely. Well, this was the premiere episode of Suplexes and Microphones with Ethan Case. We're going to try and finish this with the only way that we could end a premiere episode. We're going to have a streamer party.
Yeah, I'm good at
Let's
this.
do that.
I'm good at
Streamer
this.
party.
I've been doing this. All right, so it's real simple. Okay. All right, right hand, hold the streamer. Left hand, hold the tail, right? You got way too much tail. There you go. You gotta cut the excess tail. You don't hear that often. You gotta play slightly just to... Oh, that's easier. There you go, right? So you hold it here. And now the secret is you gotta get an off face, right? So you get left foot forward, right foot back. You gotta have your right foot. You gotta make an L. Everything I do is on the L.
Okay.
Kick your right foot a little more. Kick your right foot a little more. No. Bring it back. Bring it back. There you go. Yeah, you just point it. There you go. Bring it. All right. So then what you got to do, index finger on top there. Firm grip on the left side, right? You got it? You got it? Not too tight to this paper.
Right.
Alright? Get too tight, it rips. Super easy, alright? Then what you do is you gotta dip, right? Alright, so you dip, and the streamer goes like almost between your legs like a pendulum.
And the wheel part is facing up?
Yes, wheel part facing up, right?
Okay.
So you go deep with the pendulum, and then you release right here. Right here, it's all about that index finger. You gotta roll it.
And you hold on this the whole time.
So roll it. Yeah, you hold on to the tail the whole time. Ready? Alright, so 3, 2, 1. Yeah! That's a lot. That's a string player. Alright? Not too bad, right?
Feel like a pro.